Welcome to Tea Time with Shaylee and Amber. I'm Shaylee Evans, and I'm a life coach for pets and their people. I'm a truth seeker, and it's my passion to empower others and to give animals a voice along the way.
I'm Amber Leidick, and I've been a performance horse trainer focused on behavioral issues for over 20 years. My current passion is creating impactful in-person and online events and collaborating with professionals to be on the leading edge of positive change in the horse industry.
We are two friends invested in theta healing, belief system work, animal communication, and any resources that benefit human-animal partnerships. So turn up the volume and let's dive into the Great Awakening, brought to you by our horses. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a super special guest, Tara Coyote. She is the author of the book that we read this month in our membership, and we are so excited to be talking with her and sharing space with her. So thank you so much, Tara, for coming on the podcast and sharing some of your time with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm super happy to be here with you both.
Definitely. So I usually ask people to tell us who they are and what they do and almost like, to label themselves. But for some reason, I am feeling so intuitively called to not do that and just let the conversation go where it needs to and to see who Tara is in this current space and time and moment. And something that just feels so relevant right now. I follow your YouTube channel and I love like the little like blurbs that you put up, the little clips, whatever those are called. And I saw one today where you were talking about like sometimes you have to hit rock bottom in order to like find the beauty, find your strength, find who you are again. And you talked about the strength and surrendering and you spoke about how every challenge is an opportunity to grow and expand. And I just am curious if we can start out actually talking a little bit about the beauty in rock bottom from your perspective and why so many of us kind of have to go there in order to find our rebirth or our perspective shift, because it's so fascinating to me how if we were to eat something that we didn't like and it felt like disgusting and gross to our body, normally we wouldn't do that. But so many of us think the same thoughts that are toxic, and it creates this internal environment that we keep going back to and back to. And one of the things that I love that you talk about in your book is your constant ebb and flow in releasing fear and releasing these limited thoughts and just getting back to that space again. So whatever resonates with you from that. But I thought it was interesting because I got on YouTube for something different and there was your beautiful face and it popped up with this and I was like, oh, this is meant to be right before the podcast. And it was your blurb about rock bottom. So I'm just curious if you can speak to that a little bit.
Sure, I'm happy to. And that's fun that video popped up. I'm always wondering who sees these. So thanks for validating that you saw it. That's fun. Yeah, so hitting rock bottom, I've hit rock bottom several times through dear friends dying young from cancer, my own journey with cancer, almost dying myself, my parents both passing recently. It's several things, life, especially these days for all of us, it seems like it's hitting us pretty hard. I think it's a time for great transformation on the planet right now for all of us. But I think there's a beauty in hitting rock bottom because it allows you to rise up. Like sometimes you really have to hit the hardest points to find your strength and to find your light and to kind of redirect you in a positive way. I mean, I know for me, I think back to my hardest point when I was going through treatment for stage 4 cancer. I wasn't seeing my horses too often because I couldn't walk. Like my left hip had just broke. I was stuck in bed. My partner and I of 4 years had just broken up like 2 weeks previously. I had a huge mold outbreak in my yurt where I live here in Kauai. And it was like, that was total rock bottom. And my mom was going through stage 4 cancer treatment and I was going through chemo. So it was like everything was piled up. And then I almost had to laugh. I remember laying in bed and I was just laughing of like, what more can go wrong here? And it was an opportunity to be like, okay, yes, this is the hardest it's ever been, but it's an opportunity to find my strength. And I started realizing I can heal my body. I'm going to get out of this. My yurt's going to be fixed with its mold situation. So I had to really work with my mind to find the viable parts of inspiration to rise above, so to speak. So that's the example that comes to mind. And I think we all can find our way, whatever we're going through, whatever challenging circumstance, there's always a way to see it. Like, what do they say? The silver lining, like there's always something positive to find in any situation. So that's what I would say about that.
I really love that you talk so much about not having a victim mentality. And Amber and I, we were talking right before this call how so much of us have not experienced like true and I almost want to say true adversity around the physical body. Like it's so easy for us to take our bodies for granted because, I haven't even like had a major bone break before, and I just reading your book, and for those of our listeners who have not met Tara yet, her book is called Grace, Grit, and Gratitude: A Cancer Thriver's Journey from Hospice to Full Recovery with the Healing Power of Horses. And we're going to be referring to it a little bit in this podcast. It's a really beautiful, beautiful and like heartbreaking read. And I have to commend you for the way that you wrote it, because you were just so transparent on your journey, and it was such you can feel the emotion in your words. Like, I mean, I feel like I was with you on every high and every low. Like, just it felt like a freaking roller coaster. And I was like, I couldn't imagine living this. And then I was telling Amber, like, I just got sick a week ago, and it was, I think, COVID or something, and it totally knocked me out. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so difficult to find that peace, and that, it's easy to say, oh, don't have a victim mindset and keep your energy high and everything. But when you're in that state of like physical turmoil, it's really hard to get to that space. And this book, it's like, holy fuck, we watched you do that like over and over and over again, and this ebb and flow. And I'm curious if you could speak to how you were able to make peace with your mind when you were in such intense physical pain. Like, how did you get to the other side of that? Because I feel like your perspective will really be eye-opening for a lot of people. I was just questioning if I should say this, but whatever. Because I feel like a lot of us look for reasons to feel bad. It's like we go to the grocery store and we don't like the way, and we're constantly looking for ways to feel bad. And it really feels like through your journey, your whole perspective changed, and all you're looking for is ways to feel good. How can I feel better about this? How can I feel? And you've totally changed. Like it's just really cool to see. So can you speak a little bit to that? And also, when someone is in that mindset, or if someone listening in is in that intense, painful space, how do they make peace with that?
Yeah, this is such a brilliant point. Thank you so much. It's tricky because, like you said, we're trained in our culture to feel like a victim. Everything, TV, culture, family, society, school, is like reflected upon us for us to think like, poor me, I'm in this situation, poor me. And it's really it takes a lot of inner strength to see beyond that. A lot of my physical healing work and inner mental dexterity, I believe, comes from, well, I was very inspired by the work of Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and other writers who, it's all about, tuning into the mind and what we can do to see beyond our limited circumstance. We are such powerful individuals, and we only use like 11 or 12% of our brain. So obviously there's so much more capacity we have. But I think one of the most important things to answer your question was when I was in the point of my most painful suffering when I had cancer in my bones, and cancer in the bones is, gotta say, hands down, the most painful thing. It's just really, yeah, you don't want it. But and then also going through chemo treatment, that was very difficult. But what I reminded myself, and this was very helpful, and I think you can apply this to any situation, that whatever moment you're in experiencing physical pain, and you can think of this for emotional pain too, it's just that moment. Like, there's that moment you're experiencing it, right? And then that moment will pass. But the more you fight it, the more you're like, oh my gosh, my knee hurts, I'm in so much pain. Like, it's almost like you are focusing on the pain and creating more of it in a sense, because you're fighting it, like you're working against it. But the more you can surrender to whatever circumstance you're in, say with that knee pain, of like, yes, my knee really hurts, and kind of just let go into it, the more your body will release. And just that moment will pass through and you'll feel better, because everything in our mind and our culture is taught to fight, to fight, to fight. Like, even the verbality around cancer, fight cancer, fight cancer. And it's almost like adapting a more peaceful attitude towards whatever circumstance we're in, to just surrender to it and be like, sure, my knee is in great pain now. Okay, knee, what do you have to tell me right now? Like, take a moment to listen to whatever your body or mind's trying to tell you, and just surrender to it. And the more you can let go of the fight, the quicker you'll feel better, if that makes sense. So that was a big aha moment for me. And I try to do that whenever I'm feeling discomfort, emotional or physical discomfort. And of course, I can say that and it's easy to say. And once you're in it, it's much more difficult. But the more you can just surrender to your circumstance and just kind of accept it, the quicker you'll move through to another experience. Another thing that helps me too, I'm feeling called to mention, is something a therapist friend told me years ago, is that we're so programmed to fixate on whatever's going on. But if we can step out of our mental box and like look outside the window and look at this beautiful tree, or I know you all are horse people, which I love talking to horse women, by the way. It's one of my favorite things. But like to look at your horse and be like, what a beautiful horse, and to step outside your mental box and really just focus on what's around you. You don't even have to put a label on it, to just notice what's outside your box, so to speak. These are the things that really help me.
Yeah, I love the idea of asking the body parts, what am I supposed to be learning from this? We talk about that all the time. And I think that's something that is kind of a very foreign concept to people when you talk about how your body has the messages. Your body is the subconscious mind. And I think it's something that, like we were saying before, it's in growing up in society, it's like everything is, how do we get rid of pain? How do we numb this out? How do we avoid it? And to think of sitting with it and being like, okay, like, what am I supposed to be learning through this moment in this situation, or these sensations? And remembering that they're just sensations too. I think people get really weird and want to really avoid like sadness or anger or frustration, or they're like, we need to get away from this. How do I clear this? And it's like, it's there for you, and we're humans, so we signed up to feel all the things. So I love that you brought that awareness around that, because I think that's something that people are like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, did you ask? I did that yesterday. My ankle's been bothering me. I'm like, what do we need? My whole right side of my body, actually, this morning. I was like, what is going on? What? And it was like, what does my ankle do? It helps me move forward, and there's flexibility, and like, maybe I need to stop going forward and I need to sit and be. And so, yeah, I love that you brought that piece up.
Yeah, thank you. That's so well said. And I think too, the blessing of us being horse people, horse women, horse men, it's like we have these wonderful reflective tools around us, because being with the horses, they just make us. I mean, just me just going to feed my horse, it brings me back to myself, and they help just mirror whatever is going on and bring us to a centered place. So I think we're very fortunate to have these beautiful beings to be around, to be honest. It really helps
We really
a
are.
lot.
Yeah. The horses, as far as, since we're talking about horses, always forget, right? We're like, oh yeah, oh that's right, that's what we do. Um, as far as them being a part of your healing journey, what was that like? What part did they have in that place for you when you were integrating that in with them?
Oh, everything. I mean, there's such a major part of my book of just, I might not talk about them all the time, but horses, since I started being with horses again, I think it's been like 12, 13 years now. They've been in the backdrop of everything I do because, as you know, horses take a lot of care, the labor of love of feeding them 3 times a day, scooping poop, just being with them, whatever you do with them. Just being around them is just incredibly healing. And for a few months, I didn't see them much when I was in the worst of my healing journey. Like I could barely walk because my left hip was breaking and then my left hip broke. And so they were loose on like a large piece of land near where I live and hanging out with other horses and cows. And they were very happy. But the moments when I did see them, when they would come up miraculously to the fence when I was really needing to see them, if I was having a hard day, it's just their presence just always helps me through whatever hard time I'm going through. And I mean, I can feel it on a daily basis now. Just going to tend to them is incredibly calming for my nervous system and just brings me back to what is real, because our minds can spin with these thoughts and feelings, emotions, whatever it is. But it's almost like horses are just there being like, okay, yes, you human, you're going through this, and here we are, and we will help center you. So it's so hard to put in words how horses help us. And I mean, we can talk about heart math and so many things to talk about with them, but I know you horse people get it.
Yeah, well, I'm an animal communicator, so I feel like I spend so much time, just seeing the soul connection through horses and, yeah, truly how they mirror us, how they choose to come into this lifetime with us. And your perspective is refreshing because I feel like many of us, and I'm curious how you got to this space. Um, so many of us identify with riding them, doing them, needing something from them, right? And you are consistently talking about just being able to see them. You don't even have to see them, just knowing that they're in your yard and knowing that, they belong to you and they're sharing this life with you is such a beautiful thing. And I'm curious if, before you started having these health issues, were you have you always been this way, or did you have more of like like a ridden mentality or doing things with them? And because so many of my clients, and I went through this journey myself, I had to learn how to not take them for granted. And I feel like I spent many years in lessons of releasing entitlement around them and them just teaching me, like, you are not entitled to my body. You're not entitled to my state of being. And there was like a major undoing for me. Is that something that you kind of had to go through as well in your earlier years with horses? Or do you feel like you've just always, just their presence has just been that for you?
I love what you just said about them teaching you that you're not entitled to their body. That's very powerful and profound. Thank you for sharing that. Well, so let's see, I was a horse crazy young girl, as I talk about in my book, and I never had a horse. I grew up in Northern California and I begged and begged my parents for a horse just for years, but I never had one. I did, do some horse riding lessons, but I would spend summers in New Hampshire with my cousins and they had horses. So that's how I got exposed to horses. But I never had a horse of my own, although I would have been a less troublesome teenager if I had one. I guarantee you that in retrospect. And then I forgot about horses when I was a teenager and I got into boys. And it was only through, and I share about this in my book. If you've read my book, you know this. I had a pretty tragic situation with my ex-husband that was totally heartbreaking. And I was very depressed, suicidal. And I felt this intuitive voice that told me to spend time with horses again. And so I started spending time with the equine therapist, and it totally shifted my reality and got me out of this 1 or 2 year depression I was in. And then I studied with Linda Kohonoff, and I sold my Pilates business and got my first horse. So I have a little bit of a different background from being with horses because I never had that consistent education of like, this is what we do to ride them. I mean, I did ride them growing up. My cousin taught me that, and it was great. But my whole approach to coming back to be with horses was kind of introduced through Linda Kohonoff's way of being with horses, of just being with them on the ground and connecting with them. And because I was in such a hard mental space, it was more about how can I listen to them? How can I be with them, rather than let me develop my writing technique. When I started, getting my first horse, my second horse, I did ride them, but it wasn't my main connection with them. My main connection was on the ground and doing Linda's work and just being with them. So I didn't have to unlearn anything like some people do, because I came to the work very fresh in a sense. People always assume that I ride because I have horses, and I have to educate people and say, no, I actually don't ride now. Like, I did ride once in the last 5.5 years, which was a big deal, but I wasn't a big rider to begin with, like I shared. And because I broke my hip from cancer meds, I'm incredibly careful of not falling. So I would much prefer to be with them on the ground and do groundwork in the round pen and just be with them. So I don't even ride my horses now. They know how to ride and such, but I choose not to because that's my way of being with them. And for those of you who are listening and you haven't heard of Stormy May, I really encourage you to check out her book, The Path of the Horse, and her video, because she talks all about that too. She's actually a dear friend of mine. So yeah, so that's my way of being with them. I'm happy just to be on the ground with them.
Oh, well, that's really awesome too. And just knowing, knowing your body and knowing the way that you feel about written work too, because something that I run into a lot with my clients is it's like 90% of these people are just like ignoring their bodies and pushing through fear, and they're fucking scared of riding their horses and then they're getting on them anyway and like going around and doing things, and it's so wild. And the more I learn about, I didn't, my parents were not very like emotionally compassionate. And so I grew up not really truly understanding what compassion was, even though I had a deep love for animals. And I've just been so fortunate to have all these horses that have taught me about, not being entitled to their bodies and just seeing the beauty of who they are. And one thing that really resonated with me in your book, and you kind of sprinkle it throughout, but I think it was mostly in the beginning of the book when you got your diagnosis, and you're like, man, everyone always wants to tell you what to do and how to be and how to live and what to think. And they're so well-meaning, but they want to project their things on you. And like, I just love that throughout, it's like, you're like, please don't tell me what to do. Like, please do your own thing. Let me do mine. And like, call your power back. And I just freaking love that. And I think it just ties into the way that you perceive horses. Like, I'm just like making this connection now where I think if I were to talk to one of your horses, they'd be like, please don't tell me what to do. Like, I'm like exactly fine on my own journey. You go do your own journey. And
Yeah.
so I feel like I had a question based on that, but maybe you're supposed to say something because I just lost my question.
No worries. Yeah, I feel like my horses do talk to me, and they, you're an animal communicator, so you understand. But I get messages from them. They're like, get me back on track and such. So yeah, if you did talk about my horses, they would probably say that same thing. You're right.
So where are you now, like in this time and space, as far as like what you're doing and your health and all of these things? Like, what is your journey like right now?
Yeah, well, I'm just so grateful to be alive. 5.5 years ago, I was recommended to hospice throughout my body, and every day is a gift. I was told I was NED, no evidence of disease, in 2022, about 2 years ago ish, and which is a total miracle. And no evidence of disease is like no detectable cancer in my body. Of course, we all have like little cancer cells, but mine are turned off now, so that's great. And yeah, just really enjoying life. I take care of my horses. I do equine facilitate learning sessions with clients. One of my great loves, and if you watch my YouTube channel, you'll see this, is mermaiding. Both my parents died. They actually lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains in the last 2.5 years. And that's been very painful. I was very close to them. They both died within 4 months of each other. And that was just so heartbreaking, especially my dad's death, because that was so fast and unexpected. And so I live here in Kauai. So I found the joy of wearing a mermaid tail and swimming in the ocean. And that's been incredibly healing, just tapping into that sense of bliss and healing in the water and, taking videos and enjoying the ocean life because I live here in Hawaii. And of course, my horses and my animals are such a big part of my joy too. And yeah, I've been doing a bunch of writing and writing, not writing. And then we already talked about just to be clear, not to be contradictory. And yeah, that's my life in a nutshell. Doing some traveling here and there, but yeah, just really thankful to be alive and showing up in each moment the best I can. Really.
Yeah. And the mermaid thing, I'm fascinated by the mermaid thing. Do you want to speak a little bit more? I know, speak a little bit more about that. There was one time we were on vacation in Arizona and it was so cute. We were at a hotel and we were staying there and there was a mermaid class going on. That was the first time that I'd ever seen. And there was little kids. And I was like, wait, what is happening? So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know it's a big part of like who you are.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I know people are very intrigued by it. Yeah, I discovered it about 2 years ago when I went to Maui to visit. I found a woman who had a mermaid business. I thought, oh, I want to try that. And it was just so much fun. And I was in a pretty hard space. My parents had just died. And it's really fun. I actually started a mermaid business introducing people, adults and kids, to love of mermaiding because it's almost like it brings up this childlike sense of play and fun. We're so taught to be serious in this culture, but really, I think joy is such an important thing to tap into to heal ourselves and to stay healthy and happy, whatever brings you joy, whatever that may be. And I have found, like you said, a lot of women, especially, we have this draw towards mermaiding from being a young child and being intrigued by it. And um, it's wonderful. It's a great workout. I mean, obviously, your legs are together because you're in a tail. And I find it very easy and natural for me. Other people, not so much, but I've always kind of swam like that, anyways, without even having a tail. So you get a great workout and you get to be in the pool or ocean and just experience the water in a new way. And I've recently connected with a mermaid community. If you look online, there's like a lot of mermen and mermaids. And I've been finding actually mermaids are really into horses too, which is fun. There seems to be a little bit of a connection there. So maybe you both will be converted to mermaidism. But yeah, it's just been really fun. And then, of course, there's a sense of adornment of dressing up, right? Because there's crowns and different tail colors. So, yeah, you can really get into it and actually spend a lot of money too. So, be forewarned about that. But yeah, it's the last thing I'll say about that. If you're curious about the mer culture, as it were, there's a documentary on Netflix called Mer People. It doesn't represent all of the mermaid community, but it's a good introduction and it's quite a playful docu-series. So yeah, come to Kauai and try out a mermaid tail.
I would try out a mermaid tail if I could be a beached mermaid. I always say that I'm like I was born in May, and so I like strongly identify as being a Taurus. And I'm like, I was born in
Uh,
the desert of New Mexico as a land mammal for a reason. Like the water
right.
is so, I have so much respect for the water, and it's so, but this conversation is interesting because as soon as you like put, you were like, your feet are together, I immediately, like, my whole heart was like, no, like, that is so terrifying and claustrophobic and all this stuff. And it's just so funny how your mind goes there, right? Like, my nervous system literally changed just hearing that. And it makes me want to talk more about mindset because you speak so much in your book about your mindset and how you just have to surrender to fear. Is it false evidence appearing real? Is that, I think that's what you say in there. Um,
Yeah.
so, and you just keep reminding yourself that throughout the book, and you're like, this is not real. Like, this is something that I need to push through. And it just makes me think of, because as soon as we started talking about the mermaid, I was like, that's terrifying. I'd never do it. Da, da, da. Like, my whole
I
mind
had the
went,
same experience.
and then my,
Well,
oh my gosh. And then like yeah, and your nervous system, talking of Joe Dispenza, like I always feel like I'm behind the curve, but I'm reading his Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself right now, which is like so timely because of what you just talked about. And it's just so interesting how your mind can change the cells of your body in an instant. And I gotta say, your cat just chimed in to remind me about this kitten that I rescued from the dump 2 days ago. She's this little kitten, and I brought her home. She was living in a trash center, and she has some things going on with her eyes. She's going to the vet like right after this call, actually. But it's so funny because I didn't think anything of it. I was like, she's beautiful, she's amazing, she's going to get healed, she's going to go to the vet, and like, we're going to get her back on track. Well, then someone tells me that the thing in her eye, the conjunctiva in her eye is inflamed, it's most likely contagious, and I should wash my hands after I take care of her. Immediately, someone's little projection on me, like, it like planted a seed in my mind, and then all of a sudden, like, I kid you not, and I was like, no, that doesn't have to be my reality, it's fine, like, I will wash my hands, but like, that's not my reality. What happens? My eye gets itchy anyway, and I'm like, oh god, my eye's itchy, like, here I am thinking about this freaking cat. And I had to tell I literally had to do, I actually did a Joe Dispenza meditation where he's like, you're going to come out a different person on the other side of this. And I was like, I cannot be calling this into my life, but it's insane how you can literally think about something, and within seconds your cells and your nervous system starts to change, and they're like, oh, you want freaking pink eye? All right, just think about it for 16 seconds or more and we'll give it right to you, no problem at all. So I love that you maintained your, like, you feel so strong-willed to me, and like even just like reading your book, I'm always like, she's so like powerful because you have these moments of vulnerability, but even through your vulnerability, you're like, I'm making my own mind up about this. And it's making me want to bring up when you talked about um chemo, and you were like, I was like that, I was not going to do chemo, I was going to do the natural route. I have a very, and how, how vulnerable and how eye-opening that was for you to be like, oh my gosh, I really do have to go down this route. Can you maybe speak from your heart about that, and also maybe just speaking to your mindset too, and how you were able to maintain your own perspective and shut out the noise of maybe all the people who had their contributing thoughts and beliefs that were projected onto you.
Yes, excellent points there. I mean, like you said, the thought that comes in and the immediate fear, it's the mind is so powerful. Our bodies are listening to our minds. That's why I'm always, talking about, like, pay attention to your thoughts. Your thoughts are creating your reality. Your body's listening to your mind. Um, let's see. Yeah, the decision to do chemotherapy was terrifying to me. I literally had to be pushed to the edge of, like, literally dying, like acknowledging, yeah, I'm dying. And to even open up to the possibility. I had so much trauma around my best friend's death, which I share in the book. she had died a year before I was diagnosed. And but I literally, I mean, I remember, I mean, I was losing weight. I was on oxygen all the time. I couldn't have a conversation because I was coughing because there was so much cancer in my lungs. I was walking with a cane because my left hip was breaking. I was losing weight. I mean, it was obvious my body was deteriorating from cancer. I was in pain all the time. I was in bed all the time. And they said, well, you know, you might want to consider doing chemotherapy, Tara. It might save your life. And I said, well, how much time do I have left if I don't do it? And they're like, about 6 months. And I could see that. Like, it was obviously I was going down. And so what I really thought of was my son. My son is named Willow. He was 26 at the time. And I'm like, I had seen so many friends sadly die young with kids because they chose to adhere to a natural route. And then I saw how painful it was for their kids to be left behind without their mom or their dad, but it was most cases women for me that I knew. And I thought, I don't want to do that to my son. He's doing really well. And, you know, what a horrible, tragic thing. So I thought, okay, I can find the strength and the courage to do the thing which terrifies me the most. And I had to really work with my thoughts. I worked with a dear friend of mine who does the work of Byron Katie, which is questioning your thoughts. And I really had to work hard at shifting my perspective around from chemo will kill me to chemo will actually heal me. And it took a lot of eating humble pie, as it were, because I was actually in the public eye and giving seminars and writing about how chemo kills. So I had to completely shift my perspective around and be like, hey guys, I'm trying chemo now. Yes, I know I said it kills, but this is my last chance to save my life. So it took all my strength to go in there and, you know, be attached to a chemotherapy bag and really think about, this is my healing nectar, rather than like, oh my God, this is going to kill me. And then, you know, the side effects that come with it, you know, it made me lose more weight. And it's very, very hard to go through. It's one of the hardest things I've gone through, obviously. But I'm really actually grateful for it because, you know, with homeopathic medicine, how what will hurt you will actually heal you. That's what I thought about with chemo. I'm like, okay, this is my medicine that will take me to the bottom, but will help me rise again. Mm-hmm. So I really think it was a lot of shifting my mindset around it that helped me heal. Because I feel like if I had kept that perspective of like, oh my God, this will kill me, it probably would have killed me. I mean, because I was on my way out anyways. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I think you said something like that. I have it highlighted somewhere. Your poor book. I like highlight stuff that resonates with me in books, and it just has like so many little I don't like won't be able to find it because there's too many. But you said that how you were like, oh. You said like I have to change my mindset from this being poison to this will heal me. And I remember I can see what it looks like. It's in italic letters and I highlighted it because I was like, this is great. Like this is it in like all things, right? That's everything. Your mindset is everything. And yeah, I feel like everyone should read your book. We're definitely gonna tag it in the notes because it's so good.
Thank you. Yeah, it really took a lot of inner work, but you know, it was so powerful too, because I've been through that and it helped teach me that I can get through anything. So now the things that used to bother me before don't bother me at all. I mean, I'm still human and I still get in crabby moods and things bother me, of course, but it's all relative too. So when hard things come up now, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can get through it. So it was really a beautiful learning opportunity. So yeah, it's all in our mind. We can shift our perspective, but it does take some work. But I do recommend, like you said, the work of Joe Dispenza, like we've been talking about, and also the work of Byron Katie is so powerful to shift your thoughts around. It almost like clears your mind for you to, yeah, just think about things in a new way. So there's a lot of great tools there to tune into.
And you know what's so interesting? Like the way my mind works too is, and I'm curious how you feel about this, but I'm always like I'm like the person who will like really test a belief system. I was just telling Amber the other day, I was like, I don't believe in anything right now. Like I'm so skeptical that I have to just go general right now because I'm thinking about water and I'm like, oh, like our tap water is unhealthy. And I'm like, no, I can't think that. Then I'm like, so I'll get this machine that's gonna help me believe that it's healthy. And then I was like, but what if I'm skeptical about the machine and then I can't change that belief system? And it's like kind of a I don't know if you've experienced that before, but it's like it's kind of when you get into that mode of like just questioning. I'm like someone who just questions everything. And so when I think about so Amber and I really love theta healing, and she talks about like the seven planes of existence and how like the first two planes are like our vitamins, our minerals, our healthy foods that hold a vibration, and like fruits, vegetables, live stuff. um do As far as like you keeping yourself healthy, the mindset being the biggest piece, do you find that you still are like really mindful about what you eat and what you put into your body, what you drink, like your environment and all of that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely highly aware of that. EMFs, eating well. I eat a ketogenic diet and all organic. I stay away from sugar. Um, I don't drink. I mean, I always ate really healthy before too. I was very fortunate. I grew up in a household where my mom made granola, and so I grew up knowing all this too. But yeah, I'm highly aware of not eating anything with preservatives, and because I know I've been so close to the edge, and I know I can't take anything for granted, so I do everything I can just to stay healthy. I do vitamin IVs. I go to a naturopathic doctor, and I take a lot of vitamins. So, and I think a big part of it too, and coming back to the horses, is like being around my animals. I have my dog and my cat right here, and my two horses are out there, but they really help equalize me quite a bit. I become aware that when I travel, and somewhere around the week and a half range, if I'm away from them, I notice like, oh, I'm missing their energy. They help balance me. So I'm just aware on a daily basis that they're helping working with my energy. And oh, I just want to share this too, because at the end of my book, I talked about Blue, my paint horse, getting eye cancer, squamous cell carcinoma. This is something I haven't really shared much on social media, but I realized a few months ago that his tumor is totally gone on his eye. So his cancer's totally disappeared too, which is a freaking miracle. So just I was saying that in terms of like they help equalize me. Like I feel like they reflect me too. Like Zaria, my dog, has two metal hips, and I have metal in both of my hips. So they obviously are tuning into me and helping me. And I try to tell them too. I'm like, hey, don't take on my stuff. And luckily, like I don't have too much stuff to take on these days. But can you guys relate to that, being horse women? I'm sure you can.
Oh, yeah. We talk about that we talk about it constantly, specifically with our own animals, because we know we're holding space for people. We do sessions together, tandem sessions together. We do live events. We do all kinds of different things where it's like we're always saying, okay, we need to protect our own energy and like come home, make sure, cut cords. And I get home, with our animals, I'm like, don't, like, we're good. And it's almost like that is the inspiration to stay in discipline of like becoming aware of all that is for the animals, which I think is a lot of people, right? Once you understand that how much they take on for you and how much they're here to teach you, and but also remembering simultaneously that they're not victims either, and that they chose to come do this with you. So I'm not going to feel guilty about that, because we got a good lesson in guilt not that long ago. And bacterial infections, and so it's like it's interesting that it's like that fine balance of honoring them for choosing to be on the path with us, to do the work with us, and then also and allowing them to do that, but then also not being like, now listen, I'm good, you can just stay good.
Right. Well said. Well said. Yeah, I like that part about, well, if they choose to, that's their choice. So I guess it's that fine line, basically.
Yeah, to not be sloppy with what you're bringing home, but then also honoring them for what they've chose to do for and with you. So, yeah, totally resonates.
I love
Oh,
talking about with people who understand it because not everybody understands it.
yeah, I think everyone that listens to our podcast is, well, they've heard us, if they've heard us talk enough about it, that they totally understand. Um, we are coming towards the end. My question for you is really like, what is the biggest lesson that cancer, any of your life stuff that's gone on, but cancer, what did cancer teach you? Like what virtue do you have now that maybe you didn't have before? You know, what was the biggest gift in that?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think an incredible appreciation and gratitude for life. I mean, I look back, I've had, like I share in the book, many, many friends who have died young from cancer. And I think back to how my mindset was before my first friend died. And I was like,
Mm,
wow, I used to get so upset about this or that or the other thing. And now looking back, all these years later, it's was really not a big deal I was upset about. And so it's really woken me up to life and how sacred it is and what a gift it is to be in a healthy body, because when you're on the edge of death and like it's painful just to breathe and be alive, like now I'm like, wow, I can go take care of my horses and I can go do flips in the water. It's really such a gift to be in a body. And yeah, life is challenging and we have our things that affect us, but in the big picture, it's really such a phenomenon to be in a human body and to be on this beautiful earth. So yeah, I'm really thankful for cancer. Like some people are like, how can you be thankful for it? But it really woke me up to life. So yeah, it's given me a broader perspective that I wouldn't trade for anything, really.
perfect. Shaylee, do you feel complete? Do you have anything else that you want to say?
Nope, feeling pretty good. I love the rooster in the
I
background.
know.
I'm so distracted by him because he's just so happy back there, like tooting his. I feel like he's like the little applause. He's like, yes.
It's so funny. There's chickens just everywhere here in Kauai, and I don't even notice them anymore because they're such part of the background noise. I'm glad you're enjoying the rooster noise.
Yeah,
Welcome
it's
to
so
Kauai.
cute. And well, I just love it too because it didn't start until recently. And I was telling you before we started the podcast that there's always an animal that comes in and they're like, time's up, like, don't forget. And now there's this little rooster, like,
It's the rooster, not the horses, or the dogs. That's funny.
so unexpected and exciting.
My
So
friends all joke with me. They're like, "Yeah, I love talking with you or hearing messages from you because there's always a rooster in the background." Yeah, I guess you're right.
That's awesome.
we
It's probably your little
yeah,
spirit guide.
we
Yeah.
have our friend Rochelle. We have a mutual friend, Rochelle. She lived in Kauai, and when I would have sessions with her, it was so reminiscent. She could reminiscent of our sessions when she lived there because there was always roosters constantly, and it was great. As soon as I heard him, I was like, "Oh, it reminded me of back then." Is there anything else that you feel like you want to share to make you feel complete, or how are you feeling?
I'm just really grateful for this conversation with you both, and thank you to all the listeners. I love speaking with horsewomen because we get it on a certain level. Yeah, I was really honored when you reached out, and thank you so much for reading my book too and having your book club. That is the biggest honor as an author. So yeah, mahalo. When I put my heart and soul into writing this book, it took me a year and a half. 2020, 2021, like my whole mission was like, okay, if it helps one person, I've done my job. But to know that you all are reading a book club is just, yeah, it's the biggest honor. So thank you so much. It's been a joy to talk with you both.
Well, thank you for
Thank you. It's
hanging
been
out with
awesome.
us. If people want to learn more
Yeah.
about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, I am all over social media and I have a few different websites. My horse website is windhorsesanctuary.com. My cancer one is Cancer Warrioress, Warrioress with 2 R's. I have a new mermaid business site. That's Kawaii Mermaid Joy. I am all over like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I've got so many pages, but if you just look up Tara Coyote, that'll pretty much send you to my YouTube page and Instagram, Facebook, blah, 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 blah. So there you go. And yeah, feel free to reach out, anybody, if you're curious. Oh, and then all my books are on Amazon too. I also wrote a wild horse conservation book too, Comanche the Wild Horses, Comanche the Wild Mustang, talking about my dear Mustang and his journey here to Kauai and how he's been a healing force. And my latest book is Kaimana the Hawaiian Mermaid. It's the ocean conservation book, based here in Kauai. So there you go.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. It was great. Thank you for doing all the work that you've done. And yeah, I'm looking forward to following your journey as you keep going.
Mahalo. Great to meet you both.
All right.
Nice meeting you as well.